thank you so much for being here. It has been an amazing experience to be here to soak in all the knowledge, experience, and of course, networking with so many amazing people around here. With my esteemed panel, we are going to talk about Desi chickpeas, and we will try to get the best out in sense of price outlook, policy, demand, and supply as well. As per the second advanced estimates, we are looking at perhaps 19.8 million tons of pulses output in the Rabi crop. We also are looking at perhaps 9.8 million tons of chickpeas. So while we were having breakfast in the morning, all of my panelists, while they disagree with the government numbers, they also disagree with the numbers that they have been holding with each others. So let's start with these numbers, Mr. Jindal. Let's start with you first. What is your sense on the output this time around, and how much are you varying with the government numbers?
From my point of view, I think government never disclosed the hidden things such as this number is given. It includes Kabuli chickpeas as well as maybe it includes peas, but definitely it includes Kabuli chickpeas. So from my point of view, if we include Kabuli chickpeas, it would be maximum 6.7 million ton, out of which 700,000 ton is Kabuli chickpeas. So chickpeas in total should not be more than 6 million ton.
Vikas ji, this one is to you. While we are looking at a good output this time around, the carry forward stock from the previous year also is on the higher side. Yeah. What's your sense on the kind of yields that we might be looking at this time around?
Carryover stock is around 4 lakh ton from the last year, and I think crop for this year is 65 lakh ton total crop, and out of which is 5 to 6 lakh ton Kabuli chickpeas. So total crop number is around, after deducting the seeding, for Desi chickpeas is 54 lakh ton.
Almost near your number, Mr. Jindal. Neerav, I know you have a presentation to make, but with both these numbers out, what's your sense? Are you somewhere near to these numbers?
Yeah, first, I would like to say the government numbers on the acreage, I don't totally agree. Yes, there has been increase in acreage, and but the acreage is not as high as the government has been putting. Last 1.5 to 2 years, as a company, we've been tracking other crops on the oil seeds and even on the other grains. We are facing a lot of issues with the government acreage.
So the higher numbers are not completely out of the rule there. But Ahmed, this is to you. And after India, if there's anything that it really is Pakistan, and we are hearing about higher production numbers there. What's your sense on the demand supply, and what kind of a surplus is Pakistan looking at?
I would say last year Pakistan had a crop of 1.1 million ton. Our normal consumption is like 700,000 tons. But last year was incredibly low prices. Just to tell you, Desi chickpeas was being traded at a level of $320 at a time, and yellow peas was being sold at 380 to 390,000 tons. The 380 to 390 dollars. So I would say 100,000 ton of yellow peas plus an increased demand from Iran. I would say our demand was last year about 850,000 tons, and that should have a carryover of 250,000 tons as compared to last year. Now coming to the current crop, the rule of the book says if we don't get rain before 15th of January, we lose crop on a daily basis. We got our first rain on the first week of February, and I feel that it was not very, it was only a little rain, and it was quite late. So my hope is that the chances of having a big, getting an improvement in crop is very, very little, and we should get a crop of probably 300,000 tons. So the demand and supply says that 300,000 tons plus 250,000 tons of last year carryover, we should still require 150,000 tons to import this year.
Sanjeev, the next question obviously comes to you then.
No, but before that, I just want to know from the Indian panelists that compared to last year, is there an increase in the chickpea crop? Substantial or?
Are you bothered by the imports that they might do?
Well, it does, because I come from Australia, and a lot depends on what happens in India and Pakistan. Yes.
Little bit.
A 6% increase.
Little bit increase, but it is deficiency because last year the import was around 550,000 ton. This year import, if we include a vessel of old crop for 30,000 ton, this year the import is 120,000 ton. So ultimately, there is a less 420,000 ton is a less import. So it is compensated by the. In nutshell, it is equal to last year if we add or minus Australian crop.
Okay. Well, in Australia, we've had a fairly large crop. The year previous to 2013 was was a record crop of over 700,000 tons, and the year gone by in 2013, it was just over 500,000 tons, which are historically large figures for Australia. But this year, being a little different in the previous years, the consumption in terms of exports and all used to be to India and to Pakistan and all. But this year, a lot has been left behind only because the demand coming from India and from Pakistan has been not as buoyant as what in previous years. So we are talking about, as of today, as of 31st of January, there's a carry forward stock, just on my estimation, of about 350,000 tons of chickpeas. And the way things are going in India and Pakistan, yes, keeping in mind and the figures that Ahmad says, that there would be an import of 150,000 tons. But just in case if that doesn't match up, then there could be a substantial carry forward stocks into a new season of October 2014.
Fair point. You know, when we are talking about these kind of high crops in Pakistan and there's less export happening from Australia as well, I just want to go back to Gnan Sekhar's slide that he was showing some time back, and he was talking about prices of 3,500 perhaps coming in this year. Mr. Jindal, how firm are you? How much do you believe that we could see 3,500 rupees coming in for the chickpeas in India this year around?
I think I'm quite bullish for the price may go up to 36,000, 35, 36 or maximum 3650 around after July and before Diwali. And the main reason is last year, if we see, it is not only chickpeas. There are Russian Kabuli chickpeas. In 2012, the price opened $925. In 2013, suddenly the price crashed to by even 100%, say $430 C&F, and around 100,000 ton came from Russia of Kabuli chickpeas, which compensated all the flour mills. They prefer even at a $20 higher to buy the Kabuli chickpeas to get a better output for their flour. Secondly, this now because of inflation, government allows and make a lot of advertisement for the yellow peas, dal yellow peas now, which is little bit bitter in taste. Now every south people and east side people, they like the flour of yellow peas and dal, being its bitter taste, being is familiar to the taste, now it's well consumed. So the reason it was down because the other crop was coming.
Sure. Neerav, this one is to you. The arrivals on a daily basis in the Indian markets have picked up in Maharashtra and in MP as well. What kind of numbers are you looking at? While the longer term, after June, July, Mr. Jindal pointed out that we are looking at higher prices. But in the near term, do you see the pressure continue?
See, Maharashtra is the pressure point this year. Maharashtra is the game changer this year, according to us. The clear increase in production is coming from Maharashtra this year. So I think we've already started harvest there. But the arrivals will pick up and prices would be under control, I would say. But I do not agree with certain market participants who also feel that the markets would really fall a lot because buyers are hand to mouth, and I think the price has factored in the overall bearishness that's been coming in from last year and overall the reasonable supplies that are lined up this year also. So it's going to be I would say a range, but no major bullishness coming in the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, I think maximum arrivals comes in March or April. Then after there is no bullishness and price will be range bound. Around this year price will be 3,000 to 3,500.
Mr. Jindal, you want to add a word to that?
Further, I want to add, this year the government has increased minimum support price by 100 rupees to 3,100 rupees. Now, because of election pressures in June, the government are started buying from Maharashtra, and they will buy a huge quantity in MP and Maharashtra, as well as they will try in Rajasthan even. So if they buy at 3,100 rupees per quintal from the farmer, in the short terms, it will not come down. But in the long term, after June or July, it will be a good boost to increase the prices.
Well, last year we did see prices quite depressed, but this time it has been around. It is almost trading around that 3,100 mark. But while we may not be importing too much, do you see with the good crop that we have in hand at this point in time, there are some chances of exports? There have been a lot of policy changes at hand. Of course, it would happen only after elections, but do you see that movement coming in?
Chance for?
Exports.
No, not at all. Government cannot take such kind of risk because opposition people, whenever the prices goes up because of actual shortage, the opposition people will start making this, and there is no chance at all to export.
All right. Coming to you, Sanjeev and Ahmad, what's your sense really when it comes about the international markets? We have spoken about the Indian expectation and sense of demand and supply. Is there a global picture, Sanjeev, that you're working with? I mean, of course, Australia is not exporting as much this time around, but globally, how are the numbers?
Well, globally, again, from Australia's perspective, if we talk, we look at the markets of the Indian subcontinent, which is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Dubai. We know what Bangladesh and a market like Dubai imports, but India and Pakistan are the variations which really depend on a lot of figures. But going according to this current season, I think if we say that we have a stock as of today in Australia of 350,000 tons, maybe another 80, 100,000 tons goes to Pakistan. There would be, to Bangladesh. There would be more that goes into Dubai and maybe a bit to Pakistan as well. But I still think that there'll be a carry forward stock of about 100,000 tons. But what I also would like to point out, Australia's chickpea crop has been growing over the years, and it's become yield-wise much better than what it was, thanks to the efforts of Pulse Australia and the growers also finding it very conducive. But what we as an exporter from Australia look towards, that in case if we have the potential of a 1 million ton crop, how are we to get the chickpeas out of Australia? And I think I can share with everyone that there's a new terminal, a bulk terminal that has come up in Newcastle. And earlier on, we had only one terminal at Newcastle, which was Grain Corp terminal, and methyl bromide fumigation was not allowed. And now we have another terminal, which probably will change the perspective of bulk vessel chickpeas out of Australia. And I'm just happy to say that the new terminal is just commissioned, and we have loaded the first vessel out of that terminal. In fact, it's just completed loading today, not of chickpeas, but of durum wheat going to Italy. But it just gives a different perspective, and very happy to note that vessel of wheat we actually have fumigated with methyl bromide, which is very, very important for exports of chickpeas to India, because a number of times we've seen in the past is that there has been constraints of exporting or using the Newcastle terminal. But now, having given that option, I think that we are very much more in the foray that in case if there is a very large or potentially large chickpea crop of 1 million tons, I think that there is a lot of confidence in this extra terminal coming up in the heart of the chickpea growing area. So I see it as a very, very good long-term phase.
Fingers crossed and thumbs up to the new developments there. Ahmad, this is to you. You also look at the Dubai numbers there. What's your sense coming in from that part of the trading numbers?
Well, Dubai is pretty, as Sanjeev said, Dubai, Bangladesh is pretty predictable. I mean, they have a constant demand of 50 to 60,000 tons a year. There are 2 to 3 millers who are running, and they will buy continuously. I mean, fluctuation comes from Pakistan, where things can go crazy. Like we were in a situation where we had a very big crop, and then we are in a situation where we need a lot of chickpeas. So Dubai is a pretty stable market. I would like to add something on Pakistan demand. Sure. I mean, like people say that we have to buy 150,000 tons, and things can get a little crazier, but they don't understand is that we have a whole year to buy this product. And one more thing is that we have a carryover of 250,000 tons. And this carryover people are holding like for 1 year. And this is bought at a very lower levels. So once the prices move up, there is a very big tendency that they will come to sell, and that will put a brake on the prices. Secondly, like this is a desi chickpeas which can have a weevil. So I mean, like they have been storing it for 1 year. So why will they not sell once the prices have moved up? They have got their level of share.
So that's a fair point that you've made there. But I want to come back to the Indian aspect yet again. So we are talking about the next 3 months of a consolidation in prices in chickpeas in the Indian markets. The elections are on, the Indian rupee is very stable. But do you, Neerav, think that the crude could be a spoiler here because the prices are at a 4-month highs and that would ultimately find its way into fertilizers and free trades?
I think crude would not have much impact on the chana because we are not able to export chana. So ultimately, in a way, when we are say depressed in prices, export cannot help us improving the prices. So I don't think that is the situation here.
Vikasji, this is to you then. How do you see the overall prices of other peas, chickpeas, pulses also impacting? Because when we talk about the pulses as a scenario, the desi chickpeas do take some impact from the other dals as well.
Price of desi chickpeas will depend on other commodities, other pulses, and if other pulses is higher in prices, then desi chickpeas is also be increased or support other pulses.
Chana, for chana, the effective commodities is such as peas and Kabuli chickpeas only. But little bit it gives effect if the tur prices and mackerel prices are on higher side. Since last 2 months, the prices of tur has gone little bit up by 10%, but the prices of black mackerel has gone by around 20-25%. So it will give a little bit boost, but we have to see the sentiments. Sentiments will come only after 2 or 3 months. What I heard from Mr. Ahmed, that in Pakistan comes inflation and also increase inflation. I remember in 2012 when there was a rain harvest, and the crop was badly damaged in Australia and a huge production in Australia. So we were thinking the prices might come down. There is no buyer at all. When only suddenly the Pakistan started buying from June 2012, and just he changed the game. Now, after getting this 150,000 ton buying from them, what I was discussing with Mr. Sanjidu in the morning when we were taking breakfast, the crop was 525,000 ton this year in Australia, and their local sitting demand and the local consumption comes around 55,000 ton. It comes to 470,000 ton, and 30,000 is their carryover. So totally it is 500,000 ton available for this year. So far they have exported 150,000 ton, out of which 120,000 came to India. So now they have in nutshell, they have only 350,000 ton. If Pakistan buy 150,000 ton and Bangladesh other buyer, and suddenly after May or June India may buy. So before the new crop, I think Australia crop will be over. Might be over.
Sanjeev is keeping his fingers crossed for that one. But Emma, do you want to answer to that?
Well, I mean, Pakistan has been like that, no? I mean, we have been the game changer. I mean, then the reason is that, like, crop in Pakistan, no, for desi chickpeas is basically the area which we are using for desi chickpeas is totally dependent on rain, no? We don't have a irrigation system on those places. Wherever we have irrigation system, farmers tend to grow wheat over there as they get a better output and they get a better price. So because of that, it always has to be like that. No, we get the rain, we get a good crop, we have a capacity to produce 1 million, 1 to 1.1 million. We don't get rain, then we go down to 300,000.
So it's pretty much on the weather that we will have to look out for.
We are totally dependent on that.
Sure. Neerav, you do a lot of surveys as well. What's your sense on the sowing pattern that we have seen in the last 3 years, and what's your sense going forward?
The sowing pattern for chana has been increasing since last 2 years. Major reason has been good monsoons and even good rains in late September or early October. And chana is one crop which, even if the fallow land has a little bit of moisture, it can be taken up in sowing. Unlike wheat, where you need to ensure water availability till February or even early March. So that has been a major reason. Coming to this year, what we've seen is overall acreages have been increasing, but the major increase has come from Maharashtra. Last 2 years there has been a pattern. Cotton has been compromised and soybeans have been taken more in the Kharif, and the alternative Rabi crop for soybeans is chana. So that is why chana has got a lot of favor from about say 10 to 10.5 lakh hectares of sowing in Maharashtra 2 years back. This year we have a whooping 16.75 or 17 lakh hectares sowing in Maharashtra. So that is one very different pattern that has come in Maharashtra. Otherwise, general good rainfalls have taken up fallow lands. Even after acreage in wheat increasing, those fallow lands have been coming into sowing.
Fair point. Gentlemen, we have a limitation on time here, so I'm going to come to each one of you for your final comments now. Vikasji, will start with you, and if you're comfortable, please do speak in Hindi. What is your sense on the demand-supply numbers, final numbers, and what's your sense on prices now for rest of 2014, season year?
Demand and supply numbers are, can I speak in Hindi?
Sure.
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Demand and supply देखते हुए तो almost last year से इंक्रीज हुआ है, जो सप्लाई है वो ऑलमोस्ट 7 to 10% इंक्रीज हुई है, तो उसकी वजह से, लेकिन रेट्स काफ़ी डाउन आ गए. लास्ट ईयर जो इंडिया में 5,000 के रेट थे, अभी वो रेट घट के 2,800, 2,900, 3,000 रुपए के ऊपर हो गए हैं. तो डेफिनेटली कंजप्शन बढ़ेगा, चने का कंजप्शन बढ़ेगा, जो कि करीब 8 से 10% कंजप्शन बढ़ेगा. जो 4-4.25 लाख टन महीने का कंजप्शन होता है, उसको हम करीब 5 लाख का देख रहे हैं होना चाहिए. और उसकी वजह से, कंजप्शन बढ़ने की वजह से इंपोर्ट्स का जो सिनेरियो था, इंपोर्ट्स का सिनेरियो सरप्लस स्टॉक था, उसकी वजह से इंपोर्ट का सिनेरियो कम बैठ रहा था, लेकिन कंजप्शन बढ़ने की वजह से तो मुझे लगता है इंपोर्ट का सिनेरियो अच्छा बैठेगा. और उसके अलावा अगर शॉर्टेज एक आ सकती है, हम लोग जो देख रहे हैं कि कंजप्शन एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि 10% कंजप्शन बढ़ जाएगा, तो एक शॉर्टेज आ जाएगी चने में, जिसकी वजह से आगे प्राइस हाइक हो सकते हैं, लेकिन 3500-3600 रुपए से ऊपर डिपेंड करेगा डिमांड के ऊपर.
All right, so the consumption in the Indian markets can go up by 10%, and then that can take the prices higher, and perhaps imports also higher. So that's a 1+ for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But one comment that I'd very quickly like to make is just on the terminology of import of chickpeas, whereas India and Pakistan, the market keep on insisting on Jimbo chickpeas and Jimbo type chickpeas. I just wanted to comment that really, in fact, the Jimbo variety of chickpeas is probably 10 or 15% of the total production of Australian chickpeas. You know, we've got such large number of varieties of chickpeas. You know, you have Boundary, Hat-Trick, Pistol, Kyabra, a number of varieties that have come up, and it probably is worth noting that a time will come, like about 10 or 15 years ago, we used to be talking about Tyson chickpeas, and everyone used to refer to it as Tyson chickpeas, but Tyson chickpeas is no longer there. So I think one should open up their mind also to Jimbo chickpeas. Jimbo type is fine, but I really don't know what it signifies, because Jimbo type is Desi chickpeas anyway. So for us and as an exporter, it does become problematic that we are going on saying Jimbo type chickpeas. Jimbo type chickpeas is Desi chickpeas which we are exporting. But just as an education point of view or a comment that's something that needs to be looked at. But
I would like to say India is well accepted Jimbo type variety, not Jimbo type, Jimbo variety. Kybra, they have a big problem. If we go for the shape, after splitting, the shape comes like the split of yellow peas. You see, it comes in a round shape. But while we roast and we consume as it is, like all the Bangladeshi people, they consume, they like it a lot, because they don't split, they don't make it flour. Yeah. And in India, we have to see the size and shape of the grains, split grains. So that shape comes in a different manner.
But we are more educated than you thought we were. Neerav, a final comment from you as well. Your final numbers and sense of demand, supply, and of course prices.
So going on to the supply first, as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to say I'll go on my total crop number. So very quickly, Madhya Pradesh, the area we are taking unchanged. The yield we are taking about 2% up. But very precisely, the Kabuli acreage is drastically down by 25 to 30%. The yields of Kabuli is unchanged to 5-7% down. So Kabuli is an exception. Rajasthan, the area is up by 16%. The yield is down by 4%. The Bikaner Ganganagar belt is reporting higher yield losses, but the rest of Rajasthan and Ganganagar Hanumangarh have little better yields. That's why our yield is not as low as other people. Maharashtra, as I mentioned earlier, 27% higher area and about 5 to 6% high yield. Karnataka, Andhra have seen lower acreage and a slightly high yield. Uttar Pradesh, though is not very important, but is important because the area from Chana and Masoor has gone to peas, and that's why the area is down, whereas the government has taken slightly higher area. So overall area India-wide is 2% up. Yield is 4% up, and the production is 6% up from last year. If we go by absolute numbers, we are taking last year, which was a super bullish year, we were at 55.5 lakh tons. Last year we were at about 63 lakh tons. This year we are at about 66.5 lakh tons of the crop. So supply side we feel is reasonably comfortable. Coming on to demand, yes, when we had a crop of 55, according to the demand, we did not have the supply. So that is why the prices shoot up to 5,000 rupees, and we had prices had to destroy demand. So if we take that into perspective, we have about, from that year, 20% higher supplies in India. But even if we take 6-7% higher, say maybe 6-7% demand destruction that year and a 4% annual growth on consumption, then also I think the total summing up would be somewhere around 16-17% of higher demand in the last 2 years versus about 19-20% of higher supply. So I think the supply slightly oversees demand or maybe matches demand. Also talking to certain friends of mine in the industry, they feel the yellow peas on the East India has been capturing some demand from Chana. So all those kind of factors also tapering down the high growth of consumption of Chana, though the prices of Chana at 3,000 levels do support better consumption. So I would net say on a conservative side, the supply is maybe meeting demand, but there is no shortage that comes out of India. And as far as the price outlook goes, a lot of people are looking into Maharashtra prices. See, we need to understand, one is the NCDX and one is the physical market. Because the basis is very far off from the pressure point, Delhi is the basis, the additional delivery centers are Indore, Bikaner, which are again not as pressurizing as Maharashtra. So maybe Maharashtra prices, if somebody takes into consideration and tries to kind of come to a price conclusion on NCDX, I don't think that will work well. So NCDX I'm considering about 2900 as a bottomish range. Maybe if the pressure goes up, much, and say maybe 2800, 2850 might come onto the card, but would not be able to last for long. But on the higher side, as I see a comfortable supply, 32, 3300 on the NCDX would act as good resistance, a super spike to 34, 3500, but not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nirav. Mr. Jindal, final comments from you as well. I mean, we've of course heard the numbers that you have in hand, but what's your sense really coming in for the import side now for the year and the price view as well?
Yes. This is natural. I have been experienced for 27 years in this industry. So if the prices of desi chickpeas in whole, if goes beyond 34,000 or 44,000, 500,000, then definitely the demand simultaneously reduced drastically. And if the prices is running between 28,000 to 29,000, 3,000, the demand of the split and as well as flour comes in a heavily in a big way. Likewise, if we compare in the prices of yellow peas is running right now in Mumbai 26,000 plus, and which cost around 29,000 rupees in Delhi, and which is still higher than the prices of chickpeas. Now logistic has a very limitation in Canada. So if they try their best, they cannot export more than 1.4 million ton to destination to India. So it means the supply side is just stable, cannot be increased for yellow peas, and the requirement is more than that. So it will not affect the prices of desi chickpeas. Secondly, if we go for the prices of Australian chickpeas, it is now prevailing around $500 to $505, which cost 33,000 rupees in Mumbai port and 36,000 rupees in Delhi. So there is no parity at all, and there is no workability so far unless and until the local market goes up or Canada or Australia reduce. But presuming and considering all these things, we are very bullish from July onwards. Till then, by June, maybe the prices may be little bit high or stable. But after July, we are very bullish on chickpeas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jindal, for that. Sanjeev, to you then, if the imports do happen, that the probability of that is perhaps after June only, would Australia have enough chana in that sense, and what kind of a price view are you talking about? Because as Mr. Jindal pointed, the price parity is just not there.
Yeah, look, like Pradeep said, that there is a certain level beyond, at which the demand comes up. Similarly, that there is a level of price at which the farmers actually sell in Australia, and they will not sell. They have a holding capacity. They will not sell at prices below a certain level. And obviously, in CNF terms, in US dollars, it always fluctuates because of the exchange rate and others and all. But as of now, it's Pakistan that actually propped up the prices, so it is sitting, offers at 515, 520, or even 510. But not much of business is happening. But also, most of the sellers and growers are in the hope of Bangladesh coming to buy over the next couple of months or so. And we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Stock-wise, like I said, that there is stock. So I think after Bangladesh buys for Ramadan, and in case of May and June, we'll have to see how the market goes.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. Final comments from you as well, Ahmed. As you pointed out, that Pakistan may need to import. If we are talking about Bangladesh importing in next 2 months and India perhaps importing in next 4 months, what's the sense that Pakistan is going to come into the market, and would that really inflate the prices?
Well, theoretically, as I've told you, we have a lot of time to import, and we only have to import 150,000 tons. But we are unpredictable. I mean, I'm sure all people over here have watched cricket, and they know we can surprise you any day. It could be a roller coaster ride, but depending on supply coming from Australia, if they're selling continuously, which we have seen, they have been increasing prices very slowly, and if the sales come, then price should remain stable. But I mean, we are emotional nation, and everyone likes to buy all together. So we could see some bumps also.
All right. 3 things that I picked up from your conversation was wicket, emotion, cricket, unpredictable. Thank you so much. Okay, we have time enough for a couple of questions in case you want to ask to any of the panelists. Perhaps give your feedback if you have a different view. If you want to say it aloud, please. If there is none, thank you so much, and thank you so much, panelists, for being here and giving us such an insight view on the Desi chickpeas. Thank you so much.